Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Premier Sim Gaming League's YouTube channel. It's the turn of the PS4 F3 League to take centre stage here for round 2 of Season 28 at the Marina Bay Street Circuit for the Singapore Grand Prix. Once again, I'm on my own for this one, but rest assured Felix will be returning next week. Of course, my name's Jake, and I'm sure we're going to be in for a fantastic evening's worth of entertainment. Coming into this round, obviously we had the first round of the season last week at the Bahrain Short Circuit, and that saw Avossi take the race win, with a little bit of a surprise, I would say, but not too much. Obviously, racing F4 last season was super quick, but it was always going to be interesting to see how he dealt with a step up to F3. But it was a really well done, well controlled drive in the end to take the race victory, ahead of Loney, who took second place, and Cohen, another of the F4 graduates, who took third. The rest of the points were completed by Pat, Ferreira, Ryan, Simon, Boyrod, Lickleblocks, and Black Phoenix. And in terms of a Constructors' Championship after round 1, it is the Racing Point duo of Ryan and Avossi who have the early advantage, 5 points ahead of Simon and Loney, who are driving for Williams. Already the Racing Points have a little bit of a blow ahead of tonight. Obviously you can already see we've got 19 drivers this evening, and the one driver that we're missing is last week's race winner Avossi. He will not be taking part tonight, and there is a couple of reserves also in tonight, because we've got a few other people missing. Venom, and I believe it is Boss and Venom who are missing. So in the AlphaTauri we've got Andreas, and in the McLaren we've got Carter. So we've got a few drivers stepping in this evening, and it will be interesting to see how they get on. And we're going to ride on board with Cohen, one of the first drivers out on track, of course, podium in the first race of the season. I'm sure he's absolutely delighted with that, and he'll be looking to build on that here tonight. Just one driver currently on mediums in the pits, but everyone else out there on softs. Suggested it could be some rain in the race. I'll have a quick dive into the chat to see if there's any updates on what weather we should be expecting for the race. Let's have a quick look then. Okay, that's nothing to suggest rain in the chat, so we'll have to wait and see on that one. But yeah, we're going to follow Cohen round a lap of this 23-turn circuit. I have no idea who that is who's just joined. I have no idea how they've joined, but they probably shouldn't have. But anyway, hopefully they won't try and drive. And Cohen now building up to his lap. Doesn't want to overheat the tyres too much before the lap started. Wants to make sure that he gets everything right then as he goes around the final couple of corners to begin his first hot lap of this track. So down the pitch straight he goes then. Brake in for turn 1, get the entry nice. Don't take too much line on the outside, otherwise you will invalidate the time. And through turn 3 now, up towards turn 4. Oh, bit of oversteer moment there through turn 5. Managed to wrestle the rear end in some sort of shape. There's a car there that stays right to the inside, doesn't get in the way, and now through turn 7. Once again, the rear end of the car not looking too stable at the moment. Brakes it nicely into turn 8, clips the apex, runs it as close to the wall as he dares before flicking it into the tricky turn 9. And now down this next short straight, of course, where the Singapore Sling used to be. The free curved chicane, but is now gone. And through turn 11, he invalidates his lap, and that was a bit of a scruffy opening attempt. I'm sure he'll be the first one to admit it. Got an invalidation there for Simon, so we're going to follow Daniel now round on his lap. See how he gets on. Down the back straight towards turn 13. Sorry, turn 14 rather. Turn 13 being the hairpin, and turn 14 at the end of sector 2 into sector 3. Turn 15 is an easy kink, and now through turn 16, 17, very easily linked up these two corners. You've got to get one right in order to get the best possible line of entry for the next one. Turns 18 and 19 as well, quite similar in that regard. Oh, and that will be an invalidation through turn 20. That's not ideal for him. Taking too much curb there. Kryptonite's already invalidated his attempt too, so we're seeing a lot of drivers invalidating their first attempts. Look at this is incredible. It's Andreas, the reserve, who's going to set the opening benchmark of a 33.2. That's a nice opening lap. And that takes him on to provisional pole position. Cornet will be the next one across the line, but he edges it out by 1/10 of a second. Take provisional pole. Carter moves up into third. Let's follow little blocks through this final sector now, but he's backed off, so he will not be doing a representative lap time just yet. Let's see what Ryan's up to. Points in the first race, maybe not as high up as you would have expected, but as mentioned before, this is such a different circuit to Bahrain short that maybe expect some different drivers to come to the pole this evening. That's certainly what happened in F8 yesterday. Had a completely different podium to the first race, and that's going to be an invalidation. Turned in too early. A few of these drivers just struggling to find the rhythm of this track at the moment. Boyrod does a 34.8 on mediums. That's not going to do too much for him. The medium tyres can actually be used as a qualifying tyre here. We've seen even some pole positions in other leagues set on medium tyres, so you know that's not a bad way to go potentially, but that's not a representative time from Boyrod. 1.7 seconds off the pace. What's Ferreira up to for the middle sector? He's got some traffic just up ahead. That's Carter, who keeps nicely out the way. And now through this final part of the lap then for the Renault driver. Scored points at the opening round as well in P5, and will be wanting to back that up this evening. It's a very good lineup at Renault with Lakitu, who's a F3 runner-up from last season, also in the team. What's Ferreira going to do across the line then? It's not going to be that high up, to be honest. It's a 34.7, which is only good enough for fourth, and some 1.5 seconds off the quickest pace. Don't think we've got many drivers out there trying to do laps. Luke might be one that is. I think he came out a little bit later than some of the others onto the track, so we'll see how this lap is shaping up. It definitely looks like a hot lap, a competitive middle sector. Of course, teammates with fellow F4 graduate Cohen. Could be a potentially dangerous lineup in the Haas team. Oh, but that's too much of the inside curve through turn 17, and that will be an invalidation for Luke. So no opening lap there, and you can see already the track limit's causing more problems than I perhaps expected of the drivers. Is that Cohen who's about to start another attempt? I believe it is, so we'll go on board with Cohen, see if his second attempt's any more successful than his first. Of course, we saw on board he was struggling with the rear end of the car, so hopefully he's got that a bit more under control on this second attempt. Currently it's Cornet on provisional pole position with Andreas in second. Andreas in reserve didn't race last week. Cornet did, but I don't believe he scored any points. So would be quite a surprising front row, but of course there's so many drivers who have yet to put in a lap time, so I expect that to change. The beautiful floodlit streets of a marina-based circuit, and Cohen invalidates again. Slimbo's into the pits. Have we got Simon out there? I think we have. Simon is on a lap. Pat said he wasn't doing qualifying, he's just invalidated his first attempt. So. Oh, and so is Simon. So this really is a surprising start to qualifying. So many drivers struggling with track limits. Of course, to get the maximum out of the car and out of yourself, you've got to push it to the limit, but a lot of these drivers pushing beyond that right now. Who have we got out there? Kitu's just come out on track. Are any of the top three close to starting a lap? Andreas is the closest, so we'll go on board with him for a lap. And of course, he was the one who set the benchmark. And of course, once you've got a lap time on the board, it perhaps gives you that bit more freedom to play with the track limits, because you've got that banker in the bag. And you've got that freedom, that insurance policy, if you like, to go and push a bit more to find more lap time. Let's see if Andreas can do that on his second attempt. Takes a lot of curve for both turns 1 and 2. Very nicely done there. Turn 3, turn 4 is a small kink. And now coming up to turn 5. Car looks very much underneath him. Certainly a lot more so than compared to some of the drivers we've seen. Turn 6 is an easy kink that you barely even notice. And now turn 7. He's taking a lot of curbs, so he's definitely feeling quite confident around this track. He's a little bit down through first sector and what he'd managed previously, but that's definitely rectifiable around the rest of this lap, especially as you usually tend to gain the most amount of time through sectors 2 and 3 here. Lovely little section of corners these. It really does feel almost like a sort of like a roller coaster ride in that regard. You're constantly changing direction and it's just such a flowing track in that regard. It's a purple middle sector for Andreas and he's found a lot of time there, so this could be the provisional pole position as long as he can get this final part of a lap right. He looks well hooked up in that AlphaTauri. And now into this tricky final sector of the track. There's no real overtaking spots around this part of the track. It's just about, during the race, just trying to stay as close to the car in front as you can, but Andreas navigated that very well indeed. He's going to come across the line, and the first driver into the 1:32s on a 1:32.9. That's going to take some stopping. Cornet has invalidated, so has Carter. What's Lakitu up to? Going through the middle part of the lap now. He didn't have the first race he would have wanted, Lakitu, last week. He'll be the first one to admit that. And as an F3 runner-up, he's someone who will be expecting a lot of himself this season. He'll maybe think he can go one better with the F3 champion no longer in the division. But he's going to need to bounce back from last week's race, that's for sure. Through this final part of the lap then. There's a yellow flag up ahead. That's just Slimbo going very slowly on his outlap to try and, I guess, try and keep the tyres in the right window. He is on mediums though. A lot of drivers are switching to that tyre. The Lakitu backs off. He backs off the lap and as a result only goes 4th. But that was a clear lift off the throttle towards the end of that one. What can Ryan do then? It feels like a lot of drivers went out initially on softs and just did not like the feel of them. And I've tried to switch to medium, see if they can get a better time out of it. Ryan was, I think, about to go to the pits, but changed his mind at the last minute. He goes up to P4, still way over a second off what he needs to be doing. Patty's just started a lap. What else have we got out there? Slimbo's backed off it already, so he's not happy with the lap he's done. So I'm going to stay on board with Cohen because he's one of the few drivers out there on soft tyres right now. Boyrod has just improved, gone up to 4th, into the 33s now as well. Much better lap from him. Cohen running it close to the walls. He's got a driver just in front of him. Hopefully Slimbo keeps out the way, and he does indeed. That was nicely done from the Ferrari driver. Hopefully it didn't cost Cohen any time. Up to the end of the middle sector now, and this is looking like a very decent lap here from Cohen. Could be in contention to go into sort of a top 3, I would say, here. Hiding how his final sector goes. Oh, massive moment with the car, and that will have probably put pay to any hopes he had of going on provisional pole. That was a huge, huge moment that he did not need through the final sector and definitely ruined his momentum. Let's see what that does for his lap time. It's still going to be pretty good in the end. It's good enough for 4th, but you get the feeling without that mistake he could have easily been on the front row, maybe even on pole. So definitely time in there for Cohen, but it's a good banker nevertheless. Pat is going in the pits, so he decided not to complete his lap. Trinity looks like he's backed firmly off it, so he's not going for it. So let's follow Luke then in the other Haas. So many drivers out there at the moment just not really pushing, it has to be said, and just having troubles getting that lap in. We've got Daniel on a lap, so I'm going to just quickly follow him. His final sector round, he's on mediums though, so I wouldn't expect a pole position time here. Let's see, round the final corner then, turns 22 and 23, lead you onto the straight, and it's good enough for P6 at a 33.7. That's not a bad lap time. it has to be said, on those compound tyres, but he may not be P6 for too long, because we've got Luke quickly heading to the line, and his middle sector's looking very competitive indeed. Across the line he goes, and up to third. So Haas 3 and 5, McLaren 2 and 4 at the moment. Not looking too bad at all for those teams. Go on board with Law quickly in the Red Bull. It's worth pointing out before this race begins actually that Law has a 10-second time penalty to be added to his race time wherever he finishes, so that's something that he'll have to bear in mind. And at the moment he's not going especially quickly, so we'll... Oh, Law, I was about to say we'll go on board with Loney, but he's also invalidated, so... Trinity's backed off as well. This is a peculiar qualifying session. Luke has crashed out, I believe. I think that's on turn 7, which looks like he's gone down the escape road or something. So a bit of a peculiar one there. We'll try and find out if I can find any information on that. But Luke's qualifying session is over. So P3 is the best he will start from. Trinity is just backing off once more. I'm going to go on board with Simon, who's just started his lap. 25.8 for the first sector, and you can clearly see just from the behaviour of the car, he's definitely pushing as he goes through turn 8 at the moment. Still Andreas, the only man to go into the 1 minute 32s at the moment. It's been quite a disjointed qualifying session. We've only got 1 minute and 3/4 left of it, but so many drivers struggling to hook up laps, and a lot of drivers even backing out of laps that they were on. So, I mean, you look at sort of the times at the moment, you'd probably argue only really the top 8 maybe or 9 have done anything close to representative. So, and Daniel's also now out of the session too. I believe that's in the pits because he wouldn't have had time to go out again. Simon's going round the final part of the lap now. Get the sense that a lot of these guys will potentially be starting on mediums inside the top 10, the way it's looking. Simon then round the final, turns 22 and 23. Where's he going to put this lap time? That's good enough for 4th on mediums. Just 3/10 off pole. That's a stunning effort from the Williams driver. He'll be very happy with that, I suspect, and that should be enough to keep him in the top 10, and means he'll be able to start on medium tyres, which will be a significant advantage around 3 or 4 laps in when the soft tyre runners start to lose their tyres as they overheat. Lakitu is on a lap on mediums. He's missed the apex there by some distance. I don't think he's really pushing, to be honest. Carter has backed out of it. Who else have we got out there? Gonna follow Girassi on mediums. He's on a lap at the moment. It's not especially, I'd say it's around a second off the best middle sector time, so you're sort of looking at him getting into the tail end of the top 10 at best here. We've got an improvement there that I just saw. I'm just trying to find clock on who that was. I think it was just Loney doing a 42, which isn't at all competitive. Girassi then around the final few corners, then Slimbo goes up to 9th. What's Girassi going to do? He goes up to 11th, just outside the top 10. I don't think he'll be too disappointed with that. Got Kryptonite just on a lap now. Pat, is he pushing? I think he's backed off. What have we got here? Andreas is invalidated, so he won't be improving. So I'm going to stick with Cornet because he's actually on a better first sector. And could he be able to take pole position away from Andreas? He may be the only one able to do so. He's marginally up through the middle sector. He's going to need to find a bit more in the final part of the lap, otherwise it will be Andreas on pole position, unless there's anyone else out there doing anything spectacular at the moment, but it doesn't look like it, it has to be said. So this could be it. Cornet through the final part of the lap then. He's already got a spot on the front row, but can he make it any better? Just struggling away with traction there. That could be all very costly. Cornet up to the line. Is it good enough for pole? No, he misses out by 1/10 of a second. And it's just those fine margins that may well have cost him. We've got an improvement really far down. I'm just trying to see if that is. I think Loney did another lap and went 15. the second place finisher from last week, is struggling at the moment. Kryptonite pops it into third right at the death. Oh, we're watching his teammate. It was Kryptonite who was improving. Boyrod stays in 8th place. No improvement for him, but Kryptonite with a nice lap at the end of qualifying to pop it onto the second row. That was a little bit unexpected, I have to say. And I think that's it for qualifying. Everyone else has backed off their laps. So this is your pole sitter then. Andreas did that lap quite a while ago now, but it was enough to take pole by half a tenth. Cornet in second, Kryptonite in third. It's worth pointing out none of the top 3 qualifiers here scored any points last week, so it shows just how unpredictable it is and just the different challenges that they've got this week. And it's definitely causing a few surprising results there. Of course, Andreas did not race last week as a reserve. There was no space for him, but he's definitely shown what he's capable of this evening with a great pole position. And to be honest, he looks super quick, as does Cornet. So expect them both to have a very entertaining battle. Kryptonite in third, Luke will take fourth. I think we've got Simon in fifth on mediums, which will be one to keep an eye on. The fastest medium tyre qualifier there. And a slightly peculiar grid after what we saw last week then. So here we go then. Simon in fifth, we've got Carter in sixth, Cohen seventh, Boyrod eighth. You've got 2 Ferraris on mediums, 9th and 10th, Daniel and Slimbo. You've then got Ryan in 11th, Girassi 12th, Pat 13th, Law 14th, Lakitu 15th, Loney 16th, Ferreira 17th, and the 2 Alfa Romeos of Trinity and Nickel Blocks not doing any sort of representative lap times, down in 18th and 19th. I wonder what the 2 Alfa Romeos have got up their sleeve there, because that's not the sort of pace you would expect from them. Got to say, Renault as well will be disappointed down in 15th and 17th. You would have expected a bit more from Lakitu and Ferreira. I wonder if a lot of these drivers are holding things back. I think we're going to see a lot of guys starting on the medium tyre for the race. I don't think many drivers actually wanted to start on softs. Doesn't seem like we had any rain forecast from what I'm seeing, although you never know. But yeah, slightly, I would say quite a slow qualifying really. I don't think many drivers did the times they were capable of. But fair play to Andreas and Cornet. They're the only 2 to get into the 132s, and as a result, they're on the front row. I won't be surprised if those on softs probably trying to look after their tyres, because they may have overheating issues in this opening stint. Just while we're waiting for the race to get underway, then give you a little background about the track. It was the first race to actually be held at night back in 2008, and a lot of races here tend to hit the 2-hour time limit. It's 3.14 miles long, counterclockwise, which is quite rare. I think there's only about 4 or 5 tracks that are counterclockwise. You got 14 turns to the left, 9 to the right, and a lap record is set in 2018 by Kevin Magnussen on a 141.9. Yeah, that's right. It's the only lap record set by a Haas driver. So they're all the softest compounded tyres that were brought here, C5, C4 and C3. Oh, and you can see, we're not just medium tyres, we've got a lot of guys here starting on the hard compound tyre. You've got Ryan, Pat, Law, Trinity and Nickel Blocks all starting on hard. So clearly the Red Bull and Alfa Romeo guys have got a strategy in mind and decided to go with it. You've got both Renaults starting on the mediums. You've got Girassi and Loney also on mediums, and then obviously the top 10 locked in to what they qualified on, with Simon up in 5th, looking like it potentially could be a threat. But you have to imagine that those guys outside the top 10 have got something in mind here, and maybe expect a few of these guys to come through from near the back to get some big points finishes. It's going to be a very intriguing, strategic race ahead. The comment, K-Mag is the GOAT. Can't disagree. He was my second favourite F1 driver, obviously no more because he's no longer in the sport, but yeah, he was my second favourite Formula 1 driver up till he left. So I'm glad he's got a lap record to his belt. It's something to remember from his time in F1 until it probably gets taken away this year. Andreas leading the guys around. He will not want to push those soft tyres too much on the outlap. It's interesting to see the different strategies there. Cornet not really weaving at all. Andreas weaving a lot more to get heat into the tyres, but it's such a balancing act. Overheating here is such a big problem. It's not so much of a wear as opposed to the surface temperature of the tyres that's the issue. And you've got Kryptonite in third, Luke in fourth. I'm interested to see how Andreas and Carter get on their first race of the season. Obviously weren't able to race last week. That's going to be interesting in itself just to see how things go on. And Andreas then will line up on the grid. Of course, it's a very short run down to turn one here, so there's not too much opportunities to gain positions, but we saw yesterday in F8, XL Ryan went from 18th to 10th on lap 1, so the opportunities are definitely there, but I think you've just got to be careful more than anything. You can't win the race at the start, but you can lose it. Right, here we go, then the lights illuminating in front of the drivers, and when the lights go out, we will be underway in about a couple of seconds, because the game always likes to do this, but we should be underway very shortly. And there we go, the drivers are off, and it looks like a good start by Andreas. If anything, Cornet's had a slightly sluggish start, and now has Kryptonite around the outside of him. We've got a Haas into the wall, and that looks like it was Luke into the wall, and that's a disaster for him. And just like the real life race last week, we've got a Haas in the wall early doors. Not too sure what happened, but it's still Andreas who got the perfect start. Cornet in second. You can see Kryptonite looking to try and get second place on the road here. Simon up to fourth. It's pretty much as you were, other than Luke's accident. But Cornet manages to hold on to second despite the sluggish getaway. But you've got Simon then looking around the inside of Kryptonite, and Kryptonite's into the wall. There was contact between the Williams and the Mercedes. Kryptonite's facing the wrong way, and his brilliant qualifying has turned into a disastrous start as he manages to reset to the track. Contact between the Williams and the Mercedes. I do wonder, did Kryptonite know that Simon was there? Was Simon in the right to go for that move? It's a tough one to call, and I suspect we may hear more about it over the coming hours, but nevertheless, it's a disaster for Kryptonite. Simon's got away scot-free out of that in the end, and he maintains fourth place. You've got Cohen right behind Carter. We've got a yellow flag in sectors 2 and 3. Looks like it might be, we've got an issue for Little Blocks perhaps, as he's fighting away with Ferreira. It looks like Little Blocks has actually just got the place back on the Renault driver, who has to slot in behind. Laws had a pretty poor getaway, but Pat on the hard tyres is definitely the big winner there, up to 9th place. It's a very good start for him. And we got Carter. What's happened to Carter? Carter's facing the wrong way, so Carter's gone round. Oh, as he looks like to try and get the car back going again. This is not the most clean getaway back to the track, and he's spun and down towards the back of the field. Not too sure what happened there. It's an odd place to go off through turns 22 and 23. I don't know if there was any contact that brought about that, but nevertheless, it's not ideal. We've got Lakitu here and Loney going side by side, both on the medium compound tyres, and Loney going right round the outside of Lakitu to take P9. So Loney's having a very good start to this race as well, and finds himself up now inside the top 10 after starting down in 15th, I believe. In fact, I can check position changes. Yeah, so he's gained 7th place, so he starts 16th. What a getaway that is from Loney. He's been the big gainer off the start, and that's very good going indeed. You can see gaps starting to form, and I do wonder already, are we seeing the case of the soft tyres just not working too well here? You've got Simon bringing himself into play against the top two, and you also now got Daniel right on the back of Boyrod for P5. So it's interesting to see the difference in the tyres. Those on hards will not be in the best spot right now. Those hards will not be that quick at this stage of the race. On average around 1.5 seconds a lap slower than the mediums, so there's no surprise here to see Loney putting all the pressure on Pat, and that probably will be a move that will be made very soon. As across the line they go. Pat putting all the pressure, under all the pressure right now. We've also got Simon getting right involved there as well, so these medium tyre runners, soft tyre runners desperately trying not to overheat the tyres, but it's easier said than done. Expect to see these guys into the pits around lap 5-6. The soft tyre runners will not be out too long at all. And here we go then. Here comes Loney down the inside of Pat into turn 7, and that's going to be a simple move. I don't think Pat was going to fight back too hard. I think he knows that it's just not worth it at this stage. And Loney's really on the charge now, up into P8, and doing a very good job indeed. Let's go with a battle then. Further upfield, Simon trying to put the McLaren of Cornet under pressure. You've got Ryan, Luke, Kryptonite and Carter all had to pit, so Ryan must have picked up some damage in the racing point as well, which we didn't quite catch. And Simon then putting the pressure on Girassi. Oh, and Daniel was actually looking like he was going to threaten Boyrod, but in the end he's been mugged off by the AlphaTauri of Girassi, and Daniel down to 7th there. Not quite what he would have had in mind. He'd been looking to gain a position, he's ended up losing one, so not too ideal there for him, it has to be said. And is Cornet just starting to reel in Andreas? It'll be interesting to see if he decides to battle at all. Simon then trying to put the pressure on. Apologies if there's some issues with my mic, I'll try and get that sorted. Nevertheless, you've got Cornet, the top 3 all so close on the track at the moment, and you've got Girassi now trying to make a move on Boyrod, so another position gained for the AlphaTauri. Girassi up to 5th, and he's on the charge right now, and he's got in front of Boyrod, which is absolutely crucial. He can try and potentially build a gap while those behind him fight. Cornet then is right there with Andreas. Andreas has not been able to pull away as he may have hoped. Of course, they were so even on pace in qualifying, it's maybe not so much of a surprise that that's happened. Carter's got a penalty for speeding in the pit lane, and Carter has retired. So we've got our first retirement on the race. Carter never unfortunately able to recover from that spin around turn 23, and that's the end of his race, sadly. Simon's just picked up a penalty. That's not what he needed. He's in a strong position at the moment, and he did not need to pick up a penalty. Girassi is getting a position because Cohen is the first driver in, so Cohen hits at the end of lap 4, even earlier than I perhaps would have predicted. Cohen in the pits early doors, and I suspect he'll probably switch onto the hard compound tyre. He does indeed. We've got Simon then. He's got potentially got an opportunity to attack here. He's not using his overtake mode at the moment. But let's keep an eye on it. Oh, Cornet runs wide, and that gives an opportunity for Simon. He's going around the outside. We saw what happened earlier when he made contact with Kryptonite. He backs out of it on this occasion. He's maybe going to try and move into turn 9, and that wasn't going to work, sadly. And Simon's got into the wall and loses his part of his front wing. I was a bit too eager, I would suggest, on that one, as Loney goes down the inside of Daniel, but Daniel fends him off for now. Simon was in such a strong position there on those medium tyres. I feel like that was a move he didn't really need to go for. What can his teammate do? His teammate's also on the offensive against the Ferrari. Is he going to go for it into turn 14? Yes, he is. Daniel sees it coming, leaves the space, but defends it well as well, holds a position, and nothing Loney could do. That was good driving between the pair of them. He's trying to sort of make a move happen here, is the Williams driver, but it's just so risky. A bit of contact going into turn 16, but Daniel stays in front for now, and you can see the impact this had. Cornet's in the pits. Did Cornet pick up damage, I wonder? Because he drifted off the back of Andreas is in as well. Let's see if there's a front wing change here. Yes, there is. So, wow, that's not good at all. Cornet, front wing change. Simon has, well, got a speeding penalty and then left the session, which is, I don't think quite what he should have done. I think he should have retired, but nevertheless, that's all the soft tyre runners in, and we've still got a battle on track here between Loney and Daniel. Is Daniel going to fight back? No, he's not. So Loney gets P2 now on the road. Girassi has managed to build a 5-second gap for all that. So Girassi definitely in the strongest position at the moment on those tyres and has made that work quite nicely. But yeah, for Cornet and Simon, that's not ideal at all. They really didn't need that. But I tell you what, look how much the undercut has worked. Andreas is now behind Cohen. I would not have called that, but just by pitting a lap earlier, Andreas has lost the position to Cohen. So that undercut's worked superbly for the Haas driver, and following on from that podium last week, he's now in a pretty decent spot here as well. Let's go back with this scrap then. There's a good scrap going on at the moment, sort of over P3 downwards. You've got Pat firmly in there now. Those hard tyres will be feeling a little bit better than what they were earlier on. Oh, and you see there Slimbo getting very close to the wall on the exit of turn 21. That's not ideal for him, and he also now picks up a penalty to boot as well, so not too ideal at all. You got the key to trying down the inside. Oh, for the first couple of corners, that is brave. And he makes it stick, does he? Yes, he does. Lakitu there with a brave move. And pulled it off on the Ferrari driver. Daniel losing another spot. Doesn't look like he's got the pace right now. And I wonder, is that a little bit of damage on the front wing of that Ferrari? It is. It is front wing damage. He clipped the wall. And that is a big blow for Daniel. Oh, and he gets pushed out wide as Pat goes charging through as well. And I don't think that Daniel will hold up his teammate in any way, shape or form, because there really is not much point of the Ferraris getting in a squabble here with that damage. This is not a track you want any sort of damage around, because you will feel it significantly. So you're seeing a lot of drivers that were in strong positions just having issues, and it's definitely costing them. He's not letting his teammate through at the moment, which does surprise me a little bit. I thought he would have potentially done so. Let's go on board with Slimbo to see what he can do. This is the sector of the track where that front wing damage will really tell a story. Will we see Daniel in the pits, or is he going to try and ride it out with this damage? Now he does go for the pits, which for me makes it all the more bizarre that he didn't just let his teammate through, but there we go. Daniel pits then with that damage on the front wing, and that will not be good news for the Scuderia team as they tend to that front wing. Andreas is actually being slightly dropped by Cohen here, so Cohen all of a sudden has found a lot of pace and is starting to really make his mark in this race right now. Now with Ferreira, who's right behind Slimbo, see if he can do anything about the Ferrari up in front of him. Ferreira, of course, got some good points last week, looking to build on that. Renault themselves looking for a bit of a recovery after Lakitu's non-score in the first race. And you've also got to think about the two Alfa Romeos just quietly going about their business on the hard tyres, but just running nicely at the moment inside the top 10. Little Blocks in 7th and Trinity in 9th. They've clearly had a strategy in mind for some time, and they're just trying to make it work at the moment. See if they can do so. Daniel's now picked up a penalty just shortly after his pit stop, so it goes from bad to worse for him. further down the field, you've got Law just behind Nickel Box. Is he going to look at a potential move? Doesn't look like it. It looks like he's just quite happy to stay sat in behind that Alfa Romeo. To be fair, Nickel Box's pace is kind of spot on with us in front of him, so he's travelling at a good pace at the moment, and Law may just be happy to sit in behind right now. Cohen still pulling out a few attempts to Andreas every lap, so that's just a bit of a surprise here. The pole sitter just not quite having the pace at this stint. Of course, we saw that yesterday in F8. Certain drivers just did not get along with certain tyres, like, you know, certain stints other drivers really came to the fore, so I just wonder if Andreas isn't enjoying these hard tyres right now. He doesn't seem to have an answer for Cohen's pace. The relief for Andreas is he's comfortably ahead of Cornet, who of course had to change his front wing when he stopped. What have we got going on here? Daniel, has he had a problem somewhere? He's got no front wing damage from what I can see, but he's lost a position to Kryptonite, and he's now got Luke just behind him as well, so it's not been a good couple of laps for Daniel, and definitely a couple of laps he'll want to put behind him and see if he can recover something from this race. Even if it's a point or two, it'll be better than nothing for him. Didn't score, in fact neither Ferrari scored last week, so it's important for that team to get some points on the board. And here we go. I think we've got to move further up. Ferreira and Slimbo's in the pits. So Slimbo pits then at the end of lap 9 on those medium tyres. Maybe potentially going for an undercut on some of the drivers in front, but he's also having a front wing change. So Slimbo must have collected some damage somewhere too, and that is both Ferraris now requiring a new front wing. And that time loss will not do him any good whatsoever. Is he going to rejoin in front of Ryan? That would be his aim. But this is going to be really interesting here to see if he manages it. No, he doesn't. He's going to come out behind his teammate. And is he going to be ahead of Luke? No, he's not. Luke goes right round the outside and takes that position. So both Ferraris in the wars, and those front wing changes could be ones they look back on later on and regret, because losing the front wing has just cost them time in the pits that they couldn't afford to lose. I mean, you look at it now, Daniel and Slimbo would not be in the traffic that they're in if it wasn't for that. What can Law do about Little Blocks? He's looking a bit more threatening now behind the Alfa Romeo, perhaps sensing that a move could be on the cards. Runs wide there, does Law, but it's actually Little Blocks that picks up the penalty there. That's not what I expected at all. Girassi is in the pits for hard tyres. He's about to rejoin. Where's he going to come out? Because he did a remarkable stint on those medium tyres, and he's maybe brought himself right into contention here. He's going to come out just behind his teammate for tonight, Andreas. So that's put Girassi into what technically right now is a net P3. So that medium tyre stint has really brought Girassi into play here, and on those pressure hards, could he potentially have a run at Andreas and Cohen later on? It's going to be interesting to see. Law still right behind Nickel Blocks right now. They've both got similar amounts of ERS available to them. So for that instance, it's not so bad for either of them. Both just running a nice pace at the moment, not using up massive amounts of ERS. And in fact, Little Blocks just starting to make an impression on Ferreira in front. So both Alfa Romeos recovering after a difficult qualifying. Daniel has just made his way back past Kryptonite, so maybe recovering after that early mistake. And in fact, now he might have a run on Ryan. Is he not quite? He couldn't quite get alongside, and you do really need to be alongside for that corner to have any chance. Ryan seems to be holding a lot of these guys up. I don't know if he's got damage or anything like that, but Ryan just struggling right now for pace on those medium compound tyres. I can't see any obvious damage on the car, so I think it's just a lack of pace right now, as Loney also pits for his one and only stop. Goes on to hards. He should probably rejoin around, probably just behind Cornet, if I had to guess. Let's see, Cornet just coming round the first couple of corners now. No, he's just in front of a McLaren, so that's worked out nicely for Loney on the pressure hards, and he's in front of a McLaren, so he's rejoined in a net P4, and he's looking good to back up his opening race result with another good haul of points. As Girassi moves past Andreas through turn 7, Andreas looks to fight back but can't do so, so already Girassi on the move, and he's just 3 seconds behind our net race leader Cohen, who may potentially cut some traffic in around a couple of laps because he's closing quickly on that train of cars behind Ferreira. Speaking of that, let's follow Lickle blocks. I wonder if Ferreira might come into the pits at the end of this lap, because it does look like he's struggling for pace right now. It all depends, I think, on what his teammate does, because Lakitu's 6 seconds up the road, and he will not want to double step behind his teammate because he would lose time in that instance. What does Lakitu do? Does Lakitu come in? He does. So I think Ferreira's going to have to stay out here. Yeah, I think he would have planned to pit otherwise, but no, he will have to stay out for another lap as his teammate is in. Pat takes the provisional race lead. Ferreira up to P2, but you sense here Little Blocks may have an opportunity to get past. Through turn 6 now they're going to go. Is Little Blocks close enough to make a move? On this instance, I don't think he is. Trinity right there as well. So both Alfa Romeos pretty evenly matched on pace, it has to be said, at this current stage of the race. And you can see, look at Cohen, he's now only 1.5 seconds behind. He will not like the look of Acura cars in front, especially when you see the impact Girassi is already making into that gap. It's down 4 tenths already, so he will not want to get caught in traffic here. Got Slimbo dropping down a few positions. I'm not sure what that's all about. They try and go on board here. Oh my god, there's 3 cars going side by side. More contact there. Wheel to wheel contact. And you can see actually, it looks like, if anything, Luke might be letting them through. Has he got a problem, or is he felt like he took position illegally? But look at that, Ryan makes a big mistake. Ryan makes a big mistake, locks up, runs wide, and has to give up that position back again to the Haas driver. So Ryan having a really scruffy race at the moment, and struggling down towards the tail end of the field. As Lickle Blocks and Law and Trinity and Cohen all move up, because Ferreira has, as we expected, come in for his stop. Right, we're the last of the medium tyre runners in. I'm just going to have a quick look as to where he rejoins. It should be in front of Daniel, which will be absolutely crucial for Ferreira to be in front of a Ferrari, and he is so that's nicely done for Ferreira, and rejoins in what is P12, 9 seconds adrift of his teammate, as Ryan picks up a penalty. His race going from bad to worse then. And you can see Cohen's already made his way past Trinity. Crucial move there for our provisional race leader, and he's now up behind Law, with Girassi quickly joining this group as well, and he's dragging Andreas along with him for good benefit. So Cohen's not got this race in the bag, or anywhere near close to that. They've still got a lot of threat with the pair of Alpha Tauris behind him, and potentially even Loney too, who's not too far adrift on some fresh hard tyres. course here for Cohen. These hard tyres are only 5 laps younger than the ones in front of him, so it's going to be difficult for him to really force these overtakes. He's got Trinity out of the way, but it may be more difficult to pass these next 2 cars. We'll go on board with Girassi now, who's right there as well. He'll be sensing an opportunity here. The K2 picks up, I think that's another penalty, you know. Yeah, 6 seconds worth of penalties now for the K2. He's just not having the ideal start to his season. It gets a bit more to normal next week, of course. We had the Bahrain short race, and obviously tonight around Singapore. Next week we're at Austria for round 3. That should be a great entertaining race, that one. And a more sort of conventional track, if you like. Girassi right behind Trinity, looking to force an overtake. Cohen likewise, but Law's pretty close to Little Blocks as well, so I don't think we're going to see an overtake further in front. You can see how close they're getting. So I'm going to stay with Girassi just at the back of his sort of group. He's got Andreas close behind him now as well, so this has become a real train of cars here from second place backwards. Luke has a penalty further down the field. See here is just a really big group of cars, all on different strategies really. Obviously Cohen, Girassi, Andreas already made their only stop. Pat is in the pits. I've got to say that's quite an early stop on hard tyres. I'm a little bit surprised as to why Pat's pitted so early. I'll go on to mediums. They do have a limit. I believe they can run for 16 laps, but yeah, ideally I think he would have probably preferred to wait another lap or 2 before switching, but maybe trying to protect himself against any undercut and jumping the gun early on the stop. As Ferreira picks up a penalty too, and you've got there, it looks like Girassi going for a move. You've also got Cohen looking to make an overtake and moving up to P2 as he moves past Law, and nothing Law could do. And you've got Girassi as well making a move. He very nearly outbroke himself there, but manages to get it stopped and up into 4th place. Cohen and Girassi continuing to make progress here. And for Cohen now, there's just Little Blocks in front of him, who is your provisional race leader. But it, of course, will be Cohen once Little Blocks comes into the pits. What's worth to point out, of course, with Cohen is he was the first one to pit on lap 4 for hard tyres. So we'll have to do an almighty stint on those hard tyres, 27 laps, and he may be vulnerable later on. Particularly to Girassi and maybe Loney as well, who you can see has joined the back of his train of cars now. And any penalty now for any of these guys will be absolutely critical as well. In terms of where Pat rejoined, he's rejoined in P11, so not too bad, really, all things considered. Little Blocks is pitted, so he's decided that he wants rid of those hard tyres as well. Also probably protect himself against any undercut. And that means Cohen is now your race leader, and Girassi will see that and knows that he needs to get past Law as quickly as possible. Meanwhile, Andreas is right behind him. If anything, he's got Loney. Look at this, Loney going for a move on Andreas, down the inside to turn 7. Oh, he pushes the Williams driver out wide. Also, the AlphaTauri driver out wide. Andreas regains a position, but he could... Loney may make the case that Andreas went off the track to maintain position there. Of course, Andreas's argument back will probably be that he didn't get enough room. But nevertheless, it's as you were for P5 and P6. Loney now picks up a penalty to boot. That's 6 seconds of penalties. That's going to be really costly come the end of the race for him, I would say. Girassi is going for a move now down the outside of Law into turn 14, and that's P2 for Girassi, and he's just a second behind Cohen. So Girassi right now looking in a strong position to challenge Cohen for the race win here. with Loney's penalties and Andreas having quite old hard tyres on as well. There we go then, through once again the Farm Park lap, and you can see there both Law and Trinity pulling off into the pit lane to make their scheduled pit stop. And it looks, if anything, like Loney might have had a good run onto the straight, but no move to be made into turn 1 on this occasion. And you can see, of course, now the sort of field reworking itself out. Loney then through to the kink at turn 6. Will he have a go on the Alpha Tower into turn 7? Yes, he will. He's got the inside line this time. And I don't think on this occasion there's much Andreas can do to defend it. No, there's not. So Loney takes P3 on the road, but of course he's got 6 seconds worth of penalties. He's going to have to try and peg back by passing more and more cars. So he's going to have his work to do on track here. And of course just back to Law quickly as well, who's now made his pit stop and rejoined in 14th. He does of course have that 10-second penalty that will be added to his race time. So for Law, it's looking like it's going to be a bit of a tough mission to score points here today. And Littlebox has rejoined in the points now as well. You've got Pat up to 8th, and you've got Lakitu, who's, I believe, just passed Boyerord for P6. The battle I now want to keep an eye on, though, is a battle for the lead. Girassi has got into the DRS zone of Cohen, and he'll be a big threat now for the rest of his race. It'll be tough for Cohen, I think, to hold him off, but I'm sure he'll give it everything to do so. Andreas then still right with Loney, and I'm sure he'll try and use Loney as a tool to bring him close to this leading pair. Cornet remains in P5 then. That change of front wing definitely cost him being involved in this lead group as Luke retires in the pit lane. He's decided to call it a day, so no points on this occasion for Luke, and that is a shame on that one, because he had a good race last week. Oh, sorry, no, he didn't have a good race last week. Sorry, I was confusing him with somebody else. But yeah, no points from the first 2 rounds for Luke, and I've got to say that's a bit of a surprise. He was a king of consistency in F4 last season, so many second places to his name, and he outperformed Cohen. Let's not forget, he outperformed Cohen, his teammate, who from both this season and last season, who, well, so far to his name, has got a 3rd place and is currently leading this race. So it is a surprise to me that Luke hasn't got any points to show for his first 2 rounds. Hopefully he has better luck next week in Austria. Girassi still right there. Loney has dropped Andreas now. Andreas over a second adrift and will not get the benefit of the DRS. Lickleblocks has made his way past Daniel, so Lickleblocks up into 9th. Oh, and you see where Law's just picked up a penalty. He's actually just lost a place to boot as well, so I wonder if he ran a bit too wide there, Law, as he battled with Slimbo, trying to make his way past, I believe. And Slimbo retakes the position, and not only that, Law now has a penalty to contend with as well. On lap 20 here, Girassi now right within touching distance of a race leader. He's almost pushed him around the track at this point. Let's follow on board to see if there's any opportunity for the AlphaTauri driver to take the lead of this race. It's quite a turn for the books. He didn't score any points last week, Girassi, but now he's challenging for the race win. What a difference a week can make here at PSGL, and Girassi's definitely getting the benefits of that right now. He's got a decent amount of ERS still available to him. He's not in position to attack into turn 14, and of course, as we know, this is very much single file through the final sector. I'm just going to stay on board with Girassi to see how he's coping comparatively to Cohen through this last part of the lap. You can see as well, Looney's bringing himself into play. He's now only a second behind this pair, and of course that 6 seconds of penalties he's got is really going to hit him hard. I think by the end of this race it's going to be difficult for Looney to win this one, but he's very much still looking at the possibility of being on the podium should his pace stay as it is. Cohen has picked up a penalty through the first couple of corners, and that will give Girassi all the motivation he needs. He knows now that both the car in front and the car behind have penalties, and he's in a really strong position here to take the lead of this race. And look at Little Box, he's absolutely flying on those medium tyres with the new fastest lap of the race. As Law further down the field looks like he's made his way past Ferreira for P11. And it's fair to say you've got a lot of drivers here. We'll be looking at this now and thinking they've got a great chance of some good points. You've even got Pat and Nickel Blocks on mediums that are trying to chase down the next group of cars. That includes Boyrod, Lakitu and maybe Cornell, but that might be a stretch too far on that one. And you can see now that Loney is now within the DRS of Girassi, so Girassi may be thinking, you know, I might just stick behind Cohen, but he needs to be wary here, he needs to stay alert, because he doesn't want to get himself into a position where the race wins under jeopardy. Ideally, I think for his own race, he needs to try and get past Cohen, just to put a bit of breathing space, even with the penalties put into consideration. Going up to lap Simon's AI. Of course, he left quite early on after that, after some contact. Of course, he was involved in an early collision with Kryptonite. Kryptonite may think that that cost him a potential great result after he qualified in P3. Is Girassi still not really in position to fight yet? Of course, Cohen will have had DRS as well due to lapped car of Simon. Let's now ride on board with Loney just for a little bit, just to see how he's getting on. In fact, there could be a battle actually happening further down the field. Yeah, here we go, down the inside for Law on Daniel. Daniel doesn't fight it too much, and you can see there the benefit of new mediums versus old hard tyres as Law comfortably takes P10. Lakitu has his third penalty. I tell you what, but he's going to struggle at this rate, maybe to be in the points due to his penalties. He cannot afford to pick up any more. I'm actually quite surprised at the amount of penalties we've seen, and definitely more than what I saw yesterday. The drivers pushing the track limits and some, it would appear. We've also now got Pat, the other Red Bull driver, on the Chargers. He's now behind Boyrod. Andreas just not able to quite get on the back of that leading trio at the moment, and of course without any penalties it could be good for Andreas to get right there as well, because there's a few positions that potentially open to him if he can do so. Pat then down the pit straight. Is he going to have an opportunity here to take P7 off Boyrod? Not on this occasion, but he could very much set it up for turn 7 shortly. Let's have a look. It all depends on what sort of run he can get through turn 5. Oh, but he locks up and runs a little bit wide, and that really is opportunity gone, I suspect. He hasn't got much overtake to play with either. So yeah, he's not close enough, and that was really all because of the running wide through turn 5. That removed the opportunity. But look how slow Boyrod is on the exit of turn 7, and he had to go super defensive into 8 there to avoid a move being done on him. Pat looks at turn 9, but we saw with Simon earlier that move just does not work. It's not worth really putting your car in that part of the racetrack. It's only ultimately going to end in one way. Girassi continuing to hound the back of Cohen, whose tyres will be starting to feel just a little bit of wear. And there's no doubt about it, Girassi should be in a good position right now Andreas still, if anything, he's just not really having an impact on his top three. Ooh, massive slide there from the Williams in P3 as he desperately tries to get on the throttle as quickly as possible. There's so many traction zones around this track, but it does mean that you've got to be careful how early you step on the loud pedal. Of course, no traction control allowed in this tier, so it's all down to the driver's bravery on the throttle pedal. Gerassi through turn 5. Is he close enough? I don't think so. Cohen, one thing I've already noticed with Cohen is he's very good at getting a good exit out of these traction zones. That may be affected the later on we go into this race, but for now he's able to keep the AlphaTauri at arm's reach. Much better run through turn 5 on this occasion. Surely Pat is going to have an opportunity here to take the position from Boyrod. Is he going to go to the inside or outside? No, he's not. Again, he could probably do with saving a bit more of his ERS. Again, Boyrod though is so slow out of turn 7, and that's just allowing opportunities, little opportunities here and there for Pat, but still no way through right now. You can see her third behind. Little Blocks having to defend a bit from Law. Those two have been following each other for some significant period of time, and you can see there's a little train now developing behind Boyrod, who clearly under traction at least is just struggling to get the throttle down. Is Pat going to make a dive here into 14? No, he's not. Oh, but here we go then. This is a brave one. This is not a move you tend to see very often. Oh, but there's a bit of wheel-to-wheel contact with him. Boyrod desperate to hang on to this place. And he does do so. I've got to say, this is some really good defending here from the Mercedes driver. Really frustrating Pat behind him. But surely the opportunities are only going to get greater and greater. I can't see Boyrod fending off too much longer. Here we go then, down the pit straight. And he goes for it down the inside to 1. But again, Boyrod just cuts that move off, doesn't allow. Oh, we've got front wing damage. We've got front wing damage, and I think that might be Law. Or is it Little Box has got damage too? I wonder if a pair of them might have damage, you know. They're going around the outside of each other, and Little Box has spun. Oh, and it was Daniel who went into the back of him as a result. I think it was Daniel, was it? Yeah, no, Slimbo actually. No, yeah, it was Daniel. My apologies. Daniel's got front wing damage. He had nowhere to go. Little Box having a half spin through turn 5, and really the unlucky party was Daniel. He had nowhere to go on the exit. The car did not ghost, and that meant that he really was in a place where he just couldn't avoid a collision, sadly. Pat has got that position then. Law, I'm interested to see, does Law have damage? I'm trying to find a good angle of that Red Bull. It doesn't look like it's a match, but Little Blocks as Law, quite rudely I have to say, goes down the inside of Boyrod, who's potentially looking like he's going to lose 2 places here. Oh, and they're going side by side. Boyrod, we saw last lap, was really good at defending through his part of the track, and he does so again. Law is determined to get a move on with this, but perhaps a little bit more patience is required. We haven't got long to go here, and you can actually see Cohen is doing a super job up front. It's a shame that he does have that penalty, because if it wasn't for that, there's every possibility that he could have held on to this. Gerassi just isn't able to live with Cohen at the moment. What's Loney up to? He's chopped off the back of this pair. No obvious damage on the Williams, just doesn't seem able at the moment at least to keep up with the race leaders. Here we go, Law, the other Red Bull, looking like he wants to make a move on Boyrod, but the lack of overtake he has available to him is really sort of crippling his attempts to get past, and you've got Trinity there just behind too. So he's got to be careful he doesn't lose a position here while he's desperately trying to gain one. This could be an opportunity though. Here we go into 10. Nope. Oh, but he's going to go side by side. That's brave. This is a great overhead shot here. They're giving each other just enough room. Boyrod has to soar back out of it in the end. And down the inside he goes. Law forces his way through. Trinity looking for a gap to try and squeeze his Alfa Romeo past at the same time, but cannot do so. But Law there with a super aggressive move. We've got battling going on all the way through. Boyrod trying to defend from Trinity now as they go through 15 into 16. And oh, there we go. Trinity's got the move done. Boyrod going backwards on his old hard tyres. Doesn't have the grip to fight at the moment. And Boyrod down to 10th, and he could find himself out the points by the end of this race, because he just doesn't look like he's got much pace at this stage of the proceedings. We're just looking quickly then in terms of penalties. How does it stand at the moment then? You've got Girassi, who would be the race winner. You've got, I believe, Cohen would still be second, with Andreas moving up to third and Cornet moving up to fourth. Loney would drop to fifth. And Lakitu's actually nearly got the 9 seconds he needs to remain sixth. So that will be a good salvage job, really, all things considered. So right now, Girassi, Cohen and Andreas would be your top three, and that would be great for Cohen. Backing up third place last week with a second place here, and he would become the championship leader heading to Austria. He never was really in championship contention, it has to be said, in F4 last season. He was always just kind of thereabouts, but just a little bit of a drift. But of course, a shorter season this time around, just 10 races, and he's making the most of it. Loney right there as well. Girassi, really, I thought by now he'd be all over the back of Cohen, but it just isn't happening in the way that I would have expected. If anything, Cohen is just almost trying to break out the DRS of Girassi, who just looks to be lacking a little bit of pace at this stage of proceedings. Trinity, what's happened to Trinity? He was right there and he's dropped down to 13th. Has he got damage on the Alfa Romeo? He has. Trinity has lost a big part of his front wing on the left hand side, and that's ruined any transfer points for him. And you get the feeling that both Alfa Romeos, having looked like they could have a double point score, may leave Singapore with absolutely nothing. Trinity's going to have to pit, and that could be the end of his race. I do wonder if he's going to he may end up retiring or just going on to soft tyres to see if he can get the fastest lap. Loney at the moment is looking at trying to salvage fourth. He's 5.5 seconds of Cornet ahead of Cornet. He needs 6 seconds in order to get that place. Lakitu does still have P6 in the bag at the moment, so that's absolutely fine. Loney, the lowest he will finish is P5. Daniel's just got the fastest lap of the race, so no one in the top 10 is looking at getting the fastest lap point here. I don't think I'll be too concerned about that. Right now we've got Loney still with the top two. There's nothing you can do about it, really. You just got to hope that they've got the pace to give him the 6 second buffer he needs over the McLaren driver. He could potentially maybe do a Girassi passing Cohen, but it's just not looking that likely at the moment as we begin lap 29 of the race here. And Boyrod is about to potentially, I think, come under threat once again. This time it is from the Renault of Ferreira. On the same tyre, of course, but much newer on the Renault, and Boyrod just hasn't looked comfortable in the sort of last 10 laps on these tyres. His pace just hasn't been what you would have hoped it would have been. And I have to say, Mercedes at one point tonight looking like they were going to get a good haul of points, and now suddenly looking at scoring absolutely nothing themselves, as Ferreira moves down the inside into turn 1 and Boyrod just has nothing to defend with. Whatever it is fundamentally on that Mercedes, he just hasn't got the pace right now to compete. As Loney closes up to the back of Girassi, he's right up behind him. Girassi all of a sudden coming under pressure and dives down the inside, does Loney. I think he's just a bit fed up of Girassi not making any progress against Cohen and wants to try and see if he can pull a gap himself. But there was no room there down the inside of a hairpin, and he has to remain behind, and this is really affecting his chances of securing P4 on the road. Oh, sorry, when after penalties are considered, rather. Andreas has got no answer to this pace. He's actually, if anything, falling into the clutches of Cornet, who may still target an opportunity to grab fourth. Or grab third, rather, shall I say, once penalties are brought into consideration. Right now, it has to be said, Cornet is gaining on Andreas and is nearly within DRS range, so Andreas not going too quickly at this stage. Just checking to see if he's got any damage, and doesn't look like it. He just hasn't got much pace in these latter stages. Maybe the tyres just starting to give up on him. But the one driver, of course, who we thought the tyres would give up on is Cohen. And so far, he's just driving a superb race. He may not get the full 16 points as a reward, but nevertheless, it's been a great effort from him. Let's look at positions gained quickly. 6 positions gained for Cohen, 10 for Girassi, 13 for Loney. He's a big gainer, really, from 16th to 3rd. Girassi too, starting outside the top 10, but Cohen's showing, really, that you can do a soft to hard round here and make it work. But like I say, if it wasn't for that penalty, he would be provisionally race lead, although you do have to wonder, if he didn't have that penalty, would Girassi be a bit more braver in his attempts to overtake? But to be fair, he's just not been able to get close enough to make a move, really. You've really got to be in a good position here to attempt to move. There's no point dive bombing or anything like that, and he just isn't able to do so. In fact, probably right now, Girassi's looking more in his rearview mirror than he is in front of him. Here we go then, the final lap of the race is approaching. Cohen's 26th lap on the set of hards, and he is one lap away from taking a win on track here at Singapore. It's been a really good drive from him. All the top 3 have just had so much pace in hand, really, over the rest, and they've made their strategies work, either mediums to hards, or in Cohen's case, soft to hard. And you can see here, Loney may have to go defensive here. He's in overtake mode, but he's just not quite able to make a move. Cornet will have DRS on Andreas, but again, he's just not close enough yet to pull off a manoeuvre. Let's follow Girassi then around his final lap. Of course, if Girassi were to pick up a penalty right now, that would really cost him. It would cost him the race win. He's going for it. He doesn't need to go for it, but he sort of went for a bit of a move on Cohen. If anything, that's going to leave him vulnerable against Loney. Here we go then, down to turn 14. Loney going around the outside of the AlphaTauri car, and he can't get it done. Oh, there's been a wheel-to-wheel contact between the pair of them. Girassi doesn't need to battle for this, and he almost just lets Loney go there. Doesn't see any need to really fight for that. Loney obviously trying desperately to get the 6 seconds on Cornet, and Girassi just needs to stay where he is, and he will have the race win. But here we go then, Cohen round the final few corners. It's been a really good performance from the Haas driver, and he will take the race win provisionally, of course, because Girassi is about to take it on track with once the penalties have come into play. Cohen second, Andreas third. Cornet does edge out Loney by a tenth of a second, so despite Loney's best efforts, he will only grab 5th this evening. Lakitu across the line for 6th, and he will stay there despite his massive penalties. You've got the 2 Red Bulls pretty much in formation across the line there, and they're going to stay in 7th and 8th. Slimbo in 9th. Ferreira will actually jump him to 9th due to not having penalties, but Boyrod actually goes up to 9th. So Boyrod 9th, Ferreira 10th, and Slimbo misses out, so no points for Ferrari in the opening 2 rounds, and that's a big blow. The Italian outfit there, that's not what they would have expected coming into this season. Kryptonite will take 12th. You got Daniel crossing the line now in 13th. Lickle Blocks is crossing the line shortly. Not the race that Alfa Romeo would have wanted. 14th and 15th when it promised so much more for them. But there you go. It's Girassi who takes the race win here at Singapore. Cohen second, and Andreas in third. Driver of the day according to the game goes to Loney. For me, it's a really tough one. I've got to say, I'm going to give it to Cohen. I think he did a fantastic job. It's quite clear here that the soft to hard is not the favourable strategy, but he made it work, and like I say, without that penalty he could have easily won this race and nevertheless still secured P2. So for me, I have to say I give driver of the day to Cohen today, but I think to be fair, all the podium finishers did an excellent job. Girassi and Andreas also deserve a huge amount of credit. Daniel, of course, got the fastest lap, so there'll be no fastest lap point inside the top 10. And there you go, you got Lakitu in 6th, Pat 7th, Law 8th. Good points for Red Bull in the end, maybe not what they would have hoped for, but still 7th and 8th is not too bad. Boyrod does salvage points in the end, despite, you could see, really struggling for pace towards the latter end of that one. Ferreira picks up the final point, meaning it is a double points finish for Renault. It will look like a great result for AlphaTauri, but of course Andreas's points as a reserve will not count towards AlphaTauri's tally in the Constructors. But nevertheless, 16 points is still not bad going for them. And then you just look further down there, there's some of the finishers. Ryan and Simon both lapped. Simon, I think, left a long time ago. As the AI was driving around. Ryan, I think, did continue on to his credit, but unfortunately a lap down and no points for him. Luke and Carter were your DNFs. So of course that's pretty much the end to the F3 broadcast for this evening. I do hope you've enjoyed it. If there were some mic issues, I can only apologise. That will definitely be sorted for next week. But nevertheless, that's it from me. The F1 broadcast is now underway. PSGL F1, so be sure to join Luke and Dan for that one. Should be a very exciting race indeed. And be sure to keep an eye across PSGL's YouTube for all the races upcoming this week. We've also got of course, the Classic Series on tomorrow night. And I'll be back on Sunday for the next round of the F8 Championship. But until then, it's goodbye, and I'll catch you next time.